Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome to our normal Thursday night show that is now on Tuesday night tonight because of special circumstances. Our 2022 SEC College Football Weekly with Dadman. I'm your host, Dadman Walking 55, and once again, we are here live to have some fun, to talk some football, to review last week's action of football games in the Southeastern Conference, talk to our guest about all things football, make some predictions at the end, and also look at the action coming up this week, which we have some interesting matchups this week. A little more balanced schedule this week than we had last week, where we only had really one game that separated me and the prior guest, and really that had any national attention. So, with that being said, I will thank the people that will show up. I think the people that will watch the show later on replay and the videos. So, without further ado, I will go ahead and introduce our wonderful special guest tonight, a man who I've enjoyed his company playing a game called Axes and Allies, who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be as outspoken as this guy, a hilarious and charming fellow from north of the border, the wonderful, the inspiring, the great Rambling Canuck.
Well, now you went and buttered me up. Now I can't be me. Because I'm about to ruin that whole introduction like a son of a beep.
Go for it. Go for it. That's why I set you up with such a nice introduction, just
yeah.
allow you to smash it
for everybody. Yeah.
Oh man, how are you doing tonight?
I'm a little sore, but I'm all right.
Good. Yeah.
I'm rocking a real football team, unlike anything we're going to talk about this evening.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, that's why Robert. You want me to call you Canuck, or do you? I'll just call you Canuck then. But yeah, Canuck is kind of slightly opinionated about the differences between the Canadian football and American football.
Yeah.
And I've told him he can have no holds barred tonight, because I think it's really cool for us to have the perspective of it's not worldwide football like soccer, but there are many differences, and some that I like. So, and we'll get into more of those later. But yeah, it's so Canuck's allowed to do whatever he wants to, say what he wants to with this, and hopefully you learn a little bit
you're
about
looking
Canadian
to get your
football.
channels taken down, telling me that.
Well, I was also going to say, if I was a drinker, I'd love to go out and have a beer with you, but we'd probably both either end up in jail and lose a channel too at the same time.
No, you never get caught. Jeez,
Robert, I'm not as worldwide as you. I'm the guy that just stumbles into. I'd stumble like Mr. Magoo into the jail cell. That's how clumsy I am. So you see me, you want to run the other way. But hey, well, can I tell us a little bit about yourself and what some of your interests and hobbies? That may not necessarily be football.
Well, as the name says, it's Rambling Canuck on YouTube. I also run a secondary channel, History with R&R, where basically I get serious, which is very hard for me. And then Rambling Canuck is where I just kind of goof off and game badly. And if you want good gameplay, don't come to my channel. If you want people swearing at video games, come to my channel.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
We do the karaoke on Saturday nights, yep. And that's basically it.
And Robert had just pitched it right there, being the karaoke show on Saturday nights. Listen, if you ever get a chance to go over there, go watch. They have some good talent there too, and it's also a bunch of people having a good time and having fun together. And even Canuck even has let me on singing. I even sang Rocky Top on there last year. So
yeah, and Small Time Republic. Yeah, there were two Rough Rider teams. There was the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, who are still a franchise, and the Ottawa Rough Riders, who are now the Ottawa Red Blacks. because Ottawa is so great and creative. Uh,
Uh, well, I could have thought of other names, but yeah, at least
yeah,
they came up with a
yeah,
different name. So, and
yeah.
by the way,
That's
hello, small time republic. Glad you're here tonight with us.
yeah,
So, but yeah, but if you enjoy singing, he's got the best karaoke channel around. He's let people like me on, so and he's actually had me come back on. So,
yeah.
it's a great
It's
place
pretty
to
much an
sing.
open mic. The
Mhm.
only things are that I'm really strict on is there's absolutely no heckling like allowed at all. I mean,
Mhm.
some channels let it, where the crowd can. Oh, I give that a 2 out of 10. Blah blah blah. I don't put up with any of that garbage.
Mhm.
We're all there for fun. We're not there because we're gonna get the next CCMA.
Right.
So f off with that. So
Mhm.
that's pretty much the only thing that'll get me really really pissed. Songs to be vulgar just to be vulgar kind of make me go really, or I mean there are some that are borderline, but then there are some that are just like, oh good lord.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean it's just pretty much open mic.
But see, that's what I love about your channel, the way you do karaoke, is that judgment-free zone and that it's strictly enforced. Because
Yeah.
there are people that don't have confidence. I'm not confident. Some
Well,
say songs I can do okay, others are bad. But you people up there trying to have fun, and how do you have fun when people are
Well, the
really
way I
running you
look
down?
at it is if you're in chat, you're not on the panel. Number one, the person on the panel has more balls than you already.
Hmm.
Secondly, um,
Yeah, that's true. That's
I'm
absolutely
just,
true.
throwing that out there. So for me, it's just, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, you just shut up. Um,
Yeah, I'm
I don't need
right
the
there.
interaction. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's just the way it goes.
Well, that's awesome. But like I said, I encourage you to if you have a free Saturday night, go over there and even try singing with them because y'all. I mean, usually there's spots open, but it's so popular. There's some nights then all 10 Streamyard
Yeah,
spots are
so
full.
sometimes
So
we fill up. Usually that's later on at night. If you get in early, you're pretty safe. But once 10:30 rolls around, that's when the regulars really start showing up, and then you start end up having to fight for sanity sticks as
they,
Mrs. Canuck starts doing magic juggling of who's dropping, who's coming back up, and who's dropping again. So
oh, that's funny. Yeah, I mean they all show up fashionably late. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
like
yeah.
me, I'll be late to my own funeral.
Well, there you
Um,
go. I'd be late too. Fight it at all cost. Hey. Well, anything else you want to share? Or
Not really. No.
okay. Well, we'll think if you think of something else along the way, and I will we'll think bring it up in the wrap up part. So,
Well,
but
other than that, you cheat in Fortnite, but I'm just
I
kidding. I'm
cheat.
just kidding.
What? Bananas don't cheat in Fortnite.
Bananas
No.
always cheat in Fortnite and deserve to die.
Oh my gosh. Oh, where's the love for the
Bananas need to
bananas?
die.
Oh, where's the love for the
Anyway,
bananas? So,
there is none.
apparently not. I saw your
That's like
chat.
asking a Canadian, "Where's the love for Quebec?" There is none.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's the capital for some silly reason.
No, no, Ottawa
No,
is.
Ottawa. Oh wait, Quebec,
Ontario,
Ontario.
different
Okay, I'm
province,
sorry. Thank
wrong
you.
province.
No, okay, wrong
If we
province.
ever
But they,
put the capital of Canada in Quebec, I'm moving.
I don't believe that they're the ones with a different language, right?
That would be French, yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Oh,
That would
there
be
you
the
go.
frogs.
I knew there was something. I knew there was something. And see, in this channel, yeah, there's banana love.
Mm.
So we're good. Oh well, listen. We'll get going here. What we usually do here is we start with looking back at last week's action, and we're going to do that here. And what we're going to do is we're going to preface it here with everything we say, and when we do, and when we eventually talk picks here, you know, we're not
So
here for gambling.
what he's telling what he's not saying is basically I'm going to make this shit up as you go because we don't get your games up here, so
Yeah,
we get the NFL but not the college stuff. So I'm just going to be making it up as I go along, and yeah.
Hey, that's why you're here, buddy. That's why you're here. I expect no less from you tonight. So anyway, well, let me say hello to Squeaky Mouse. Howdy, Squeaky Mouse. Glad to have you in here. Banana love. Ooh la la. Yeah. Hey, I stay around. You never know what we'll do with bananas, besides eat them. But anyway, on that note, gambling. We're not a gambling site. We're just here to have fun, talk some football, make some stuff up, especially when we get into picks. We just do straight up picking winners and losers, just to have fun with that among friends. So I think this week will be really interesting. Last week we had kind of a boring week where we only had one disagreement. This week I think we're going to have a lively a lively session tonight. So we'll see how it goes as we move along. So, with that being said, the previous week's actions that we'll start looking at. The first game of the week last week was the Alabama trounced Vanderbilt 55-3. No surprise here. Number 2 Vanderbilt at home just runs wild on Vanderbilt, uh, who's having a good year by Vanderbilt's standards at 3-2. For Alabama, Bryce Young, quarterback, was 25-36, threw for 385 yards with 4 touchdown passes. Ja'Cory Brooke had 6 receptions for Alabama for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. In a losing effort, A.J. Swan in his second start was 13 of 26 for 115 yards. And you can see what Alabama did with really Vanderbilt had no running game, though, and only 9 first downs. So, Robert, what do you say about a game like this? Just move on, or just ass
Well,
kicking, or
I mean, it looks really good, except it's got to be a little bit of a kick in the ass to Alabama that they turned the damn ball over. But
yeah?
whatever. Can't be perfect, I guess.
Oh, I don't know how familiar you are with Nick Saban, but that one turnover probably irked him more than the fact that they scored 55 points.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Old style coaches. So
yeah.
we'll move on to the next game, which was a close contest, which really went a long way to uh, control team's destiny in the SEC Western Division. Texas A&M, after a few struggles the last few weeks, and still this week had struggles on offense, but they managed to outlast Arkansas 23-21 in a game played in Dallas. Texas A&M, Max Johnson, quarterback, was 11 of 21 for 151 yards and a touchdown pass, while Devon Acone, their running back, carried the ball 19 times for 150 yards and a touchdown. In a losing effort, Arkansas's KJ Jefferson was 12 of 19 for 171 yards through 2 touchdown passes. He also carried 18 times for 105 yards with a touchdown, but he lost a very key fumble trying to stick the ball over the goal line. And this might annoy you. I don't know, when the quarterbacks try to stick the ball over the goal line on top of a pile, it got punched out and it was run back. And then the defender handed off to another defender who went 82 yards for a touchdown. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, I know. Ball security is a big thing.
Oh, that's like when you guys are in like the Grey Cup or the whatever the hell you call it,
the Super Bowl.
And instead of doing like a 2-second passing play to the best receiver in the league, he decides to run it and fucks up the whole thing.
Yeah.
Something
Yep.
like that.
Yep. That's it. I mean, hey, hey, there's another one coming that's even worse than this one was, but I'll hold on to that. Actually, that's in our next game that we're going to go to. And one last note on this game is that Arkansas missed a game-tying, game would have been a potential game-winning field goal with 1:30 left in the game, missed a 42-yard field goal attempt. So they did have another chance. They doinked it off the goalpost, which I'm looking forward to hearing about the goalpost in the Canadian football too a little bit later. So, speaking of that other bad event that happened, Auburn, Missouri. Well, battle of the bottom half of both divisions, but Auburn outlasts Missouri in this game, 17-14. Missouri's Brady Cook was 14 of 24 for 179 yards and an interception. Robbie Ashford for Auburn made his first start and went 12 for 18 for 127 yards. How bad is Missouri? And you know what we usually call Missouri, Canuck?
What's that?
Misery. We just call
Oh,
it misery.
well, see, I'm just wondering who the coach fired, because if you're in that close of a game and you're already considered one of the bottom seeds, those 2 turnovers is like the end of the day for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, it gets better for you. And see, small town Republic is an Auburn fan out here. That field goal was weird. It was a 26-yard field goal attempt, which is basically it's a chip shot, and he was straight on. How you
Yeah.
miss it? It's like, how do you miss that? He did, and I like the way he described it as Missouri versus Auburn, Tweedledee versus Tweedledum.
Yeah, well,
That's that type of
Mrs.
game.
Canuck is Auburn too, so
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
She kept that quiet because I thought she was with Mark and all the others with the Alabama, or just kind of.
Nope, she's Auburn.
Oh wow, hey, War Eagle. don't say that to many Alabama fans though. But hey, although hey, I still remember that field goal where Alabama tried that long field goal, ended short. The guy caught it in the back of the end zone and ran it all the way for the touchdown to beat Bama a few years ago. That was a heck of a play. But you remember we talked about a bad fumble on the goal line, right?
Yeah.
That missed field goal led to overtime. Auburn kicked a field goal to take the lead. So in American football, at least in the collegiate level, it's a Kansas tiebreaker where each team gets the ball at least once at the 25-yard line. Well, Auburn had to settle for a field goal, so Missouri had the ball. The running back made a nice run out to the corner down the sideline, and you know how the players like to stick the ball out again. When he did, he lost control of the ball at about the 1-yard line, and it rolled into the end zone, and Auburn recovered the ball. Game over.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, another tragic.
Stupid questions win stupid prizes.
Kind of that way it is. Hey, there's a comment from Mrs. Canuck out there. She sounds like a smart lady.
I think I'm under contract to agree.
There you go. Oh, yes. Yes, say yes, definitely, because you can come back and watch us and hunt us down, definitely. Oh, so let's move on to our next game here. It was Kentucky versus Northern Illinois. Kentucky has kind of been, ever since they won against Florida, they've kind of been very pedestrian in their matchups, not really dynamic on offense. They put up 460 yards of offense, but really only 18 first downs and 31 points while giving up 23 to, a smaller competition. So Kentucky held the ball for about 7 minutes more in the game. And Will Rivas, the quarterback, was 18 of 26 for 303 yards and 4 touchdown passes. Kentucky had 2 receivers that each had more than 100 yards receiving in the game. Kentucky won its 19th straight non-conference game, meaning a game against an opponent that's not part of the SEC. It's currently the longest active streak in the football bowl division level of Division I football. Northern Illinois did sack Will Rivas 5 times in the game, so they were able to put pressure on Kentucky's quarterback during the game, which helped them. So
would get a new offensive line.
Yeah, that's surprising because Kentucky in the last few years is known for its offensive line. That's really, for them to give up 5 sacks to anybody, but much less Northern Illinois, you're right. They need some improvement on that offensive line.
Get the beef up front.
I tell you, it helps. You got to have it. Even if you can't run the ball, protect your quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll move on to the next game that we had last week, which is Ole Miss and Tulsa. And Ole Miss struggled in this game, outlasting Tulsa at home 35-27. Both teams amassed nearly 1,000 yards in total offense, while Tulsa was able to hold the ball from Ole Miss quite a bit. But this is 2 weeks in a row where Ole Miss ran the ball a lot more than they threw for. Almost 310 yards on the ground for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, their head coach, is really known as a quarterback coach and known for his passing offenses. So Ole Miss looks a little different this year, but they're 4-0, headed into conference play now. The quarterback Jackson Dart was 13 of 24 for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ran the ball 13 times for 116 yards running. Quinshon Judkins, running back for Ole Miss, ran the ball 27 times for 140 yards with 2 touchdowns. Isaiah Epps for Tulsa, or for Ole Miss, 4 catches, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the day. Any thoughts with this one, Ramlin? No, it's just a game. It should have been a paycheck game, but this game was a lot closer than it should have. But Ole Miss is still in the top 25. We'll look at the rankings a little bit later, but there's always times when teams struggle looking ahead to the next week too. So, and moving on to another paycheck game, Bowling Green at Mississippi State. Mississippi State wins 45-14, nearly doubling up Bowling Green in terms of first downs, total yards. Ran less than Bowling Green, but threw a lot more yardage than Bowling Green. Will Rogers, Mississippi State's quarterback, was 39 of 50 for 6 touchdowns and 409 yards through the air. 13 different Mississippi State players had a reception in the game. And Bowling Green's quarterback, Camden Orth, had a pretty good day against the Mississippi State defense for 17 completions on 28 attempts for 172 yards, had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So that's about all that you can say with this game. So move on. Anything jumping out at you on that one, Canuck?
No, other than every time I see a game, there's a turnover.
Yep. It happens, especially in American football. It's just always turnovers. So, and then we'll go to the game of the week last week. It broke my heart. But, Florida played this game a lot better than I thought that they were going to. Tennessee wins at home 38-33. Tennessee breaks a losing streak to the Gators, which has had some wild endings in the recent years. Both teams gained nearly 600 yards on offense. Anthony Richardson for Florida had a career day with 453 yards passing. Florida was able to hold the ball a lot more through throwing the ball this time, not just running, from Tennessee, with almost a 10-minute difference in time of possession. Hendon Hooker for Tennessee was 22 of 28 for 349 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran the ball 13 times for 112 yards and a touchdown. Anthony Richardson for Florida was 24 of 44 for 453 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Roberts, here's your thing. He had an interception. Mm-hmm. Also, he had 17 carries for 62 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, but he had a fumble at the 10-yard line of Tennessee when Florida was down 7 points. They were close. They could have pulled it closer.
Yeah, but who cares about Florida anyway?
Me? That's awesome. But that's I'm sure a lot of people don't care about Florida. You either love or hate Florida. There's usually no middle ground with the Gators. So, the Gators. There are 3 receivers in the game with over 100 yards receiving. 2 Gator receivers, 1 Tennessee receivers. The Gators were down 17 points in the fourth quarter, but rally just fell short, ran out of time. And there's a point that Small Time Republic makes here that I actually went on Twitter and posted, and I think I even did it on Facebook with people that I know, and they kind of got mad at me a little bit because I questioned the coach's attitude in there. One point, there was a close play inside the 1-yard line, and Florida had held them out. They were reviewing it, but it took a while. It was annoying because they were taking forever to decide if they were going to review it or not, and it would be annoying. But he lost control. He was way out on the field, and then they flagged him for unsportsmanlike conduct. So the review happened to be in Florida's favor. It would have been 3rd down, and you still could hold him out. But instead, because unsportsmanlike conduct got basically a 3-inch penalty. But the important thing is it went from 3rd down to 3rd and goal to 1st and goal.
Yeah, but mean, like, how good could Florida even be? I mean, they had Titus O'Neil at one point. I mean,
well, they've got
enough said there. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, you just got that joke.
Oh, that's also one thing, folks out there. This guy loves wrestling.
I mean, the guy ran down the ramp and tripped over his own shoe. I mean, how coordinated can Florida be?
Well, they've had a few good years, at least a couple. I mean, the
Just
more
saying.
modern joke though about that is that they ended up in prison a lot more during the Urban Meyer years. But that's another
Yeah, that was back when the
story.
Raiders were good.
Exactly.
But anyway,
You
moving
remember
on.
the old? You remember the old '70s NFL team? They were bad guys. I mean, there was not
The
all this.
Oakland Raiders used to not care about the score; they just cared about who they sent to the hospital. I mean, Jesus Christ!
You look at the old NFL films, or look at some of those player cards, and those Raider players are missing teeth. Them and the Steelers,
Mm-hmm.
and
That
especially when
was
the two of
back in the
them got
day of the
together.
Bruisers, but
Yeah,
that's frowned upon now.
yeah, exactly. Just it's becoming anything but football, these days. So, but anyway, uh, any other more anti-Florida ranting?
No, that's fine.
That's fine. We're good.
I
Hey,
got my wrestling reference in. I'm good.
there you go. Okay. Anytime you can insert a wrestling reference, let's go for it. But I will end it with saying that I was impressed with Richardson. If Richardson had played anything like this against Kentucky, Florida would be 3-1 and would have the win over Kentucky. But now they're sitting at 2-2, and that's what I said at the beginning of the season. Florida's a wild card depending on how well the quarterback plays. They should very well be 3-1 right now. But now they're facing 2-2, a loss to Tennessee and Kentucky, so they're probably going to end up no better than fourth in the SEC East. And I predicted they could be anywhere from second to fifth, depending on how the quarterback play and really the coaching too. When you see a situation like that and a coach, you do wonder about young coaches. Are they ready for that level of competition? And let's see here, John. What do you think about this one?
Probably.
That's just. Jorts. I forgot about Jorts. Jeez, that's a scary sight. Well, we'll move on to wrap up these next three games that are pretty much snoozers, paycheck games. South Carolina rolls over Charlotte 56-20. The Carolina quarterbacks go 19-26 for 250 yards, one touchdown, one interception.
No wonder that Ric Flair never goes to a Charlotte game.
Yeah, really. I tell you,
Jesus.
Marshawn Lloyd for Carolina had 15 carries, 169 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But yeah, Charlotte, yeah, they had 3 turnovers. That's back in your boat. But time of possession almost 7 minutes. But sometimes time of possession is not all that's cracked up to be. So, but there you go. 5. Hey, how about that? 5 turnovers combined between the two teams.
Fire the coach.
I'm sure that was an ugly game to watch. So, actually, the week before, the Carolina coach got in trouble when they were playing Georgia because he got mad because the people were not getting off the field during a presentation at the end of during a timeout, and he got in trouble for
yelling with the Dumbass of the Year award or what?
What's that?
Were they presenting him with the Dumbass of the Year award?
No. It's one of those things that they're giving other people the Dumbass of the Year award, type thing. And he's like, they're trying to make a decision about 4th down, and they needed to get out there. And the thing was, they're staying out there lined up, and Georgia's lined up. So just trying to keep the defense off kilter because they were told we need to run this play as soon as you come back in, and they tried to, but they couldn't run the play, and they were lined up. So, but then again. It's easy to bitch and moan when you get beat I think it was 48-7. So
yeah,
you got to find something to complain about besides yourself. Oh, and what was a really surprisingly shocker game. I mean, Georgia somehow wins 39-22 against Kent State. Georgia beat Samford 33-0. I mean, Georgia's very pedestrian against these little teams, but then they play South Carolina. They won 48-7. They played Oregon. They put up 49 points, 49-3 against Oregon. So might be one of those symptoms of you play to your competition with Georgia. Yeah. Georgia doubled the first downs, almost doubled in offense. Total had the ball for 24 or 14 minutes longer and still survived 3 turnovers. So Stetson Bennett was 27-36 for 272 yards with an interception. Brock Bowers, this guy's a tight end, Robert. He's a tight end, and he runs second play of the game, 75-yard touchdown run. I mean, how do you know tight ends are not supposed to run like that,
Mm.
But they did. He did. So Devontae Walker for Kent State had 7 receptions for 106 yards and a touchdown. So we really don't have anything else unless you want to pick something up, or you have another good wrestling reference on anything
No,
with these
we're
two.
good.
All right, awesome. And then the final game of last week was New Mexico Lobos at the LSU Tigers. It was a shutout by LSU, 38-0. Yes, folks, that is correct. 2 first downs.
Well, they were too drunk on tequila.
There had to be something. I mean, what can you do in New Mexico then, I guess? I mean, if your football's that bad, it's. I mean, what do you do in New Mexico? I actually had to go back and double check this one. You need some more. You need like 3 cases of tequila to put up that 2 first downs. I don't know the last time I've seen something like that.
That's a lot of 2 and outs, or
yeah,
3 and outs for you guys.
Yeah. 2 10-yard drives, there's your first downs and the rest are 3 and outs. But they were only had the ball for 22 minutes, so that's about 15-minute difference. New Mexico attempted only 7 passes. They completed 5 of them, though, Robert, for 47 yards. So, hey, they did something productive. They should have thrown the ball more. Should have thrown the ball more at that rate. Jaden Daniels for LSU was a quarterback, 24-49 for 279 yards. The backup quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier for LSU, was 9 of 10 for 135 yards and a touchdown. And 10 different LSU receivers caught a pass in this game. So, like I said, there's not much we can talk about these games or say because it's a paycheck game.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Or it's a return of Paycheck Games.
Yeah. We got a prediction here from Small Town Republic. New Mexico with 2 first downs. That's about how many Auburn will get Saturday.
And don't let Mary hear you that. Mrs. Cliff hear you say that. I think she has them picked to win next week.
Yes.
She's picked to win every week. So.
Well, we will see. We will see with that, and all. But that's interesting to hear that. Yeah. But that's kind of crazy how that. I'm one that likes stats and numbers, so I like reading box scores, and those just flabbergast me. Do you remember back in the 70s and 80s, especially in college football, nobody threw the ball? There was a lot of wishbone. It was all run heavy. You might see some teams maybe attempt 2 or 3 passes in a game.
Yeah, I remember when my son was playing, like in the really, really, really low leagues, they wouldn't let them throw the ball.
Yeah.
It was all running plays, which is just dumb because it takes all of the guesswork out of it. They're running, right? So it's like, what you're protecting against, the run. There's you throw in that league and it's like, what? The ball can go in the air?
Well, what's scary too at a kid's level though is they don't get a chance to develop their skills. Either throwing or running pass routes or catching the ball.
A lot of it is, it depends on the coach.
Agreed.
Depends on the coach.
Yeah, and that's where the thing, especially at youth leagues and stuff, you really need good coaches that are patient, know how to explain people. They teach the kids how to play the game. Because so many times a lot of it comes down to who you know. If you're some kid with that doesn't know the right people, you get stuck on the offensive line automatically. Like why do I have to be like playing flag football when I grew up? That's where they kept putting me. I'm like, oh, why can't I be a receiver or something or quarterback? But it happens. So, but we'll move into more football talk in just a moment. I wanted to do something real quick. Actually, I want to review this week's standings as of the results of the previous games. We see that Georgia, Kentucky, and Tennessee are all tied for first in the East at 1-0 in the conference records. Vanderbilt, Missouri, and then followed by Florida and South Carolina at 0-2. In the West, we have Alabama, Auburn, LSU, A&M all at 1-0 atop the division. And Small Town Republic, hey, Auburn's still first in the West right now, at least for 1 week. They're tied. When the Pigs come in at 1-1, Ole Miss has yet to play a conference game, and Mississippi State losing to LSU is at 0-1. So that's where the standings are for now in the SEC going into the next week of action. Okay, at this point, Robert, Canuck. Okay, this is where we talk about football.
Oh.
Okay, all right. This is where you can really unleash on the Canadian football and American football and stuff like that. But let me start with some basic type of questions, and then we'll go with wherever it leads us. So, do you have? My question is really designed if you have like an American college football team favorite.
No.
Yeah, but what about pro football teams? Do you have any
Well, it's the
American
one that's
NFL?
on my logo right now, Calgary Stampeders.
Okay, any American NFL teams or not?
Uh, if you're asking teenage me, it would have been the Raiders
Mm-hmm.
because that was back when they actually had, when they were out killing people and it was fun to watch. Now it's probably the Eagles.
Okay. Okay. Well, tell us then about the Canadian Football League a little bit, and tell us about your Calgary Stampeders and
Well,
why you like them.
Calgary's a dynasty team.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of sucked for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's a million excuses under the book. They've just basically sucked for 2 years. Like not like to the point where they're at the bottom of the standings, but they're a playoff team. They're
Mm-hmm.
every year they're in the playoffs, and I think last year was the first time in forever and a moon they didn't make it. But Calgary's a dynasty team, so like whereas some teams they're changing their coaches more times than you're changing your socks.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary went from one coach. The coach that followed him was the assistant coach, and then that coach took over, ran the team, and then his assistant coach took over. So it's a dynasty team in the coaches bench.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like even like the old coach is still in the organization kind of thing. He just moved to a different desk. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah.
Well, it's
Calgary is, but yeah, for the most part, Calgary is one of the top three in the West. So
mm-hmm.
now it's been kind of weird because Winnipeg is doing good for some fucking reason. Usually Winnipeg is the butt of a
Yeah,
joke, but for the
right.
last like 3 years, they've been doing really, really, really well. Like they've won the Grey Cup twice, and I still don't know how the fuck that happened. But anyway, they did. So they're paying off somebody real well. Um, so and with Calgary, my brother, the older brother, was a Bomber fan, so that's the Winnipeg team where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And well, being the younger brother, I can't like the same damn football team, so I went with Calgary because one, they used to play at McMahon, which
Mm-hmm.
is our family name, McMahon Stadium.
Okay.
And they're red and black, and those are my two favorite colors.
Mm-hmm.
And so they I would go Calgary, my brother would go Winnipeg, and all my friends, of course, were all Winnipeg fans for the most part.
Mm.
So, when Calgary would trounce Winnipeg, I'd make a couple of bucks because I'd be the only one out of the group going, yeah, they're gonna fucking lose. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'm the crazy bastard that goes for training in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Stadium and walks in with the Calgary Stampeders jacket.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Because I'm an asshole.
Yeah. I went up to Athens a few weeks ago, Athens, Georgia, home of the Bulldogs, and I really wanted to wear a Gator shirt, but I didn't have the guts to do it.
Oh fuck! I was there for training to be security for the Grey Cup,
Oh wow, that's cool.
and yeah, we had to go through the whole bomb threat thing and all that garbage because it was
Mm-hmm.
right after 9/11.
Oh right, okay.
Like it was a couple years after 9/11, so it was the major security around events was still a thing. So they they had people flown in from like the FBI to train all the security force for the Grey Cup, and we had to sit there for a fucking week because these people rambled on and on and on and on and on and on. So every day when I went into the Bomber Stadium, I had the Calgary Stampeders jacket on every time. I had my fucking visitor pass right on the Calgary Stampeders, jacket, because I'm a jackass.
Oh. Yeah, but you're our jackass. You're Mary's jackass. There's a
People think
difference.
it's new that I'm an asshole just because I'm I'm on YouTube. Oh no,
No.
I've been an asshole for many years.
I was born that way.
Yeah, pretty much.
It comes out. Let's say hi to Ang real quick. Ang says, my kid says, hey, Dad and Canuck.
Hey,
Glad you're here, my boy. You're going to lurk, and I'll see you a bit later. Oh, and by the way, Small Town Republic says Georgia fans are obnoxious. Yeah, they are. But I've also heard, Gator fans are. We'd like to be, especially when Tennessee comes around. I am more obnoxious to Tennessee. They won this week, but they deserved it. They were the better team. But there is just something evil about that damn song, Rocky Top. Oh my God!
I made you sing it.
It's cool. I like to because I didn't mind. I enjoyed that one. So, but I tell you what's even worse than that, Canuck, is being on a bus, soaking wet at a football game, and a bunch of drunk West Virginia Mountaineer fans singing that damn country road song.
Oh
my God, they can't sing, and it's like, oh please.
and they probably missed every second word, but
yeah, that was just, and then just
they
like
added words to it.
Y'all please stop. Y'all please stop, please. And I was like, it was
well
so
when
fun.
I played for Grant Park High, on my first season, we went up against our school's rival.
Mm-hmm.
And the year before, they didn't lose a game all year, won the championship. So it was their homecoming game, and we whooped their ass. Their homecoming game.
Oh, they're mad with
So
that.
as we got on the bus, we all pulled down the window of the bus, and we're all screaming at the top of our lungs, "Nah, nah, nah, nah."
Yeah.
All the way out of the parking lot. Oh yeah, they were not amused with us.
Not at all. Not at all. Hey, listen to this that came in. But you are a polite asshole. She's talking to me. Look at that.
Oh well, I don't know about that.
Well, I think she's directing that one at me though.
Let me see if I.
Oh, that's too funny. But hey,
but
yeah. Well, that's cool. One of the other things I want to know, Canuck, is what we're talking about. Oh God, look at this. You don't have to second the misses, but
so can I break in, since we're talking about
yeah, absolutely,
minor league football, right? I'm gonna throw
go ahead.
I'm gonna throw some stuff up here. Because of course I've got to have my dad moment here.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is me with my quarterback.
All right, you ready for me to add that to stream?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So that's my son.
Awesome.
He's the quarterback for his high school team. It's his grade 12 year. From here, he'll be moving on to probably the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. So that's my son in the shotgun. He has wheels on him.
I see that. Wow.
I don't know if I've seen these ones or not. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, he can run when he wants to. He made that
I saw last year you shared one where you ran a touchdown too.
Yeah.
Definitely proud dad moment. Oh, look at it. You got around that end though.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you a quick question real quick.
Yeah.
That football field we were looking at.
Yeah.
Are the high school fields the same size as the normal professional Canadian football league? I mean, so is it the same size field for like high school, or do y'all even have college football, but like same school size for different levels?
Size.
Okay. Do y'all have like a college level of football?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the U of M. Like the University of Manitoba has a team. But the chances of you getting in the U of M are really low.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people end up they'll go in the private. So you'll have like the Winnipeg Rifles.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Rods. There's like there's the private teams,
Mm-hmm.
which is where my son's going next year.
Mm-hmm.
So then you move up and you go either Rods or Rifles after that kind of thing.
Is it like a
And then
minor league
Rifles,
system?
from the Rifles you can actually go to the CFL.
Oh wow! So it
Yeah.
is like a minor league, like a feeder
It
system.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah, because you don't
your
really
two
have that many
minor league
universities.
choices are like,
Yeah.
call a university football, which is basically the same as college, right?
Mm-hmm.
University up here.
Okay.
Or you go the private side, which is like your Rifles, your Rods, and whatever else team there is, and they travel all over and play. But yeah, so I mean, they have that, and then I want to see if I can find one of him throwing the ball because he has a little bit of an arm.
Yeah. While you're looking for that, so that's interesting. So you have the similar levels like to American football, and the
Yeah,
fields
it's
are the
just a
same.
little different. It's a little
Mhm.
different. Um,
Yeah, I because I know we've talked about that before about
there
how
we
the
go.
Americans have screwed it up with the field size, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
we'll
yeah.
get into that
I'll
in a
give you
minute.
shit for that in a minute.
I know everybody wants to see
So
this.
here's one. I'm a proud daddy. I'll show him off.
Hey, brag,
He's my
brag away.
quarterback. So yeah. So here we go. So my boy's in the shotgun on this one. And he's only grade 12. Gone.
Wow,
that's
awesome.
that's that's
Let's watch it. Oh, is this
hold
another
on,
one?
I'll go to this one and I'll
Yeah.
go back.
Hey,
And then he runs again, makes him fall, makes him fall.
I think yeah, that was a nice run. I think I remember seeing that one.
But this is the throw, so yeah. And of course, Dad takes all credit because I taught him how to throw since he was about 6.
Hmm.
So but yeah, that's
That
all
is
the way
nice.
down the field.
Oh man, that's nice. That's sweet. I love the goalpost right on the goal line, though. By the way, that's old
Yes.
school American football.
Yeah.
I always like the danger of running into the goalpost on the field. You
Yeah.
know, that was always
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a
They're
cool.
in the end zone instead of on the outside. Yeah.
Well, here, there's a that's awesome. Yeah, he dropped a dime in there, and then Mrs. says, "Nice." That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Uh,
That's great to
uh,
see, and it's
he lives
awesome
like
and
if
proud
my
papa.
son was here, he could probably quote you every stat
Hmm.
from the NFL, every trade that was made last trade deadline.
Oh
Uh,
wow,
like
that's
because football is his life. He keeps up with it like 100%. He knows who went where, why, which ones are which, who's the best receiver so far, who was my son can go on and on about, well, he was 15th draft pick, but he ended up being the second, best receiver first year round, right?
hmm
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, that
He
is
knows
awesome to
all
hear.
that crap.
Well, and that's awesome. And if you got more, feel free to share it. But one thing I noticed in the video, because we talk about how you love to say how Americans have screwed up football. Uh, One of the things that I noticed different with the gameplay there, the receivers and running backs were moving towards the line as the ball was being snapped.
Yeah.
And in American football, that's a false start. You have to stay set. You can move parallel to the line, but
No,
if you're moving forward, it's a false start.
you can run because it's kind of deceiving because we have the same thing, right? But your receivers can start, but they can't cross the line.
Right.
So they line up behind the line and they start. And the ball is snapped right before they hit the line,
Right.
right?
Because if you don't time
So
it, you're offside. So
yeah.
I,
So
I, I like that difference. So I
yeah,
like that. It's
yeah.
actually puts more challenge into it because see, we've had I don't know if you're familiar with what's called the Arena Football League. and
No, not really.
it was indoor football.
Oh, that's kind
Basically, it was my kid Ang's great sport. I knew they'd love it when they all of a sudden when it was like you go to a game. It was a mixture of WWE, hockey, and football all together because they played with the hockey boards there.
Oh,
They played
lovely.
football on a field, and they also had uprights and nets so the ball could bounce off, and it's open play. I mean, it really was a really, really cool game. And that you could move toward is the same thing like in the CFL, where you could move towards the line, but you had to be on the side when the ball was snapped. It really was you had to have your timing down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
'cause,
harder than
I mean, it's so
it
easy
looks.
because if they're not right on that line, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they take one little step on that line before that ball is snapped, you're effed. That's an
Yeah.
automatic flag. But yeah, the receivers what they'll do is they'll line up a couple of paces behind the line instead of lining up right on the line. They'll come up a couple of paces behind and then they'll take off and then they time it so that by the time they get to the line, the ball's snapped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what are some of the other ways Americans have screwed up football, in your opinion?
Well, I just, you guys always claim that you guys are so great and everything, but it takes you 4 downs to do what we do in 3.
Yep.
I don't understand that. We only have technically you got first down, second down, third down is either your gamble or your punt. So you only have
Mm-hmm.
2 downs.
Yep.
And then because Canadians are assholes, we even made it a longer field just to be a dick.
Yep.
Because the
You'll have the
Canadian
center
field is
line, too.
longer than the
Yeah.
American field.
You have that
So
center
not only
line.
do we have a longer field, but we have less downs to get there.
Aren't the end zones longer too, though? The
What's
end
that?
zones, our end zones are 10 yards long, but aren't the CFL, the Canadian end zones longer than 10 yards?
No, I don't think so. I think they're still 10 yards.
Are they still 10 yards? Okay, I
Yeah.
thought it was bigger. What? It
No,
might be the
but
wider
it's just that
field.
our fields are longer.
Mm-hmm.
So we have less downs to get there.
Yep.
So if where you in the NFL or college have 3 and out,
Mm-hmm.
so 3 and then field and then your kick, we have 2 and out.
Right.
So if you get stopped twice, you're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting difference. I still love the goalpost at the goal line or right at the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
That is so awesome, though.
Yeah, we get to run before the ball is snapped. Well, we don't get to cross the line.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You can run from the goalpost to the line, but you can't run past it.
Yep. All right. Well, good night, Squeaka. Sorry you got to check out, but we'll see you around. Thanks for being here. So, but yeah, it's really interesting to hear the differences from your perspective between the Canadian football and American football. It really is.
The main difference is money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the main differences. Like, I mean, we do have some rule differences. Like, I don't think you have the the other one you don't have is if or maybe you might, I don't know, because I don't follow football that great anymore, but if they kick the ball and it goes all the way into your end zone, you grab the ball, do you have to run it out?
No, you can take a knee or wave a fair catch and you get the ball at the 20 or 25 yard line.
Yeah, but if you take a knee, it's a point again.
No,
for their
not
team,
in
right?
American football. No.
Okay, well, in Canadian football, it is.
I love that.
So you don't see them take a knee very often.
No,
they'll run it out.
If anything, what's happening with the rule changes in American football is that they're making really it's so easy to kick touchbacks so that because safety is such a big issue and they've regulated kick returns and stuff and banned certain things. And I mean, when you kick now at the 35-yard line and these guys have these big mammoth cannons, then they're going to. I mean, it's always a touchback. So, It's kind of frustrating because they've like I said, they've done everything to discourage the returns in that system. You don't want to give up that point because that point may come back to haunt you near the end too. So, yep. Thanks for bringing that one up. I forgot about that one. That's also a big one too. So, what about football do you really like? What if you could say if there's one or two things? What really captures your
Well,
interest?
I like the fact that like I like the team sport of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not just one dude. Um, if it's played right, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the it's a great team game, and it's something you can cheer and go to, and it's not played in the winter. Um, well, actually, I will say this. I will say this. To be fair, the Bombers have had to play with the snow on the ground.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because our Grey Cup is in late October,
Mm-hmm.
early November.
Right.
So yeah, by that time, if they're playing in Winnipeg,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably already snow. Like when I did the playoff game one time for the Bombers, it was 13 degrees Celsius out, which is
Mm-hmm.
like 50 something your scale.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked it up online, and the major differences between the 10 differences between the NFL and the CFL are as follows, according to this stupid site. The NFL offers higher salaries, duh. The CFL field is longer and wider. So not only do we have
Mm-hmm.
a longer field, but we have a wider field.
Right. Right.
Opens up for your receivers. The
Mm-hmm.
CFL allows for teams to have 12 players on the field opposed to 11 on the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
The CFL offers 3 downs per possession instead of the 4 downs that the NFL does.
Mm-hmm.
The different rules regarding the play clock and timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you guys get 3, right?
Correct. 3
We get
timeouts.
1. Uh,
Jeez.
one
Wow.
per. I think it's 1 per
Half. Or
half.
yeah.
So
We get 3 per half, so we get
if he
6.
blows his challenge, uh, because the coach is only allowed 1 challenge, so if he blows that,
Mm-hmm.
fucked.
Oh yeah.
The CFL offers an additional method of scoring known as a single point. That's what I was just telling you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end zone kick.
Mm-hmm.
There are different rules regarding overtime format. Yeah, ours is a fucking gong show. There are differences in the season schedule and length. There's differences in the location of the field goalposts, as you pointed out. And the CFL does not have the fair catch rule.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
So yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing with the fair catch is it makes it so easy. At least, yeah, like I said earlier, it's like they're trying to regulate out the kick returns, and
Yeah.
that's an exciting element when you got to get that ball and you got to go. You can't just sit there and take a fair catch. It almost makes it boring. Like, okay, here's a kick. Okay, there's a fair
Oh,
catch.
kickoff returns are like a major thing here. Like special teams
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
CFL, if your special teams suck donkey dick, you're fucked. Right? You can have the
Yeah.
best
No. Yeah.
quarterback in the world. If your special teams and defense suck, you are fucked. You are fucked sideways.
Yeah.
Like you can have the best offense in the fucking world, but if your defense and your special teams suck, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I do like that though. I like special teams, but both at college and the NFL levels, they've kept changing rules and adding rules under the guise of player safety that it discourage any type of returns. So
So Real Blood Nation says that Tennessee is the best. Mods be nice.
yeah, but you know what? In all honesty, though, and I'm going to say this, well, just hold. I'm going to hold off on an opinion until later
Roll
when we
Tide,
get to the
Roll Tide.
games.
I see it. I see it.
I no, actually, I got something, and it does not involve Alabama really. But
Oh,
I'll let me get back to that a little bit later. And some emotes. Glad you're here, Wade. Thanks for being here. In Small Town Republic, get 3 timeouts because of commercials more than anything. Yeah, they love the American broadcasting loves the timeouts so that they can throw a few more commercials in on everything.
Yeah.
So,
well, here's another thing I don't understand, and please don't take offense to this.
okay.
How dumb are American football fans? I'm just
pretty
asking.
can be pretty
I'm
damn
asking
dumb,
for a
but
friend.
it can be pretty damn dumb. But I mean, in what
Because what
regard
I
are you
need to
talking
know,
about?
what you need to explain to me, okay, is why when I'm watching the NFL on TV, do you need a fucking arrow to show you which way the fucking ball is going? I'm just, asking for a friend. How
I don't
dumb
think
do
it's.
you have to be
I
that you
don't
don't
think
know which
it's.
way the ball is going?
I don't think it's the fans though, Canuck. I think it's the broadcasters can't stand not playing with new toys. They
Like,
love.
how dumb do you have to be that you need an arrow to tell you which way the fucking ball is going?
I know. Yeah. It's like, but then again, sometimes you remember the old days of graphics were just plain and crude, and you only had a few. Nowadays, it's like, holy crap, they got so many graphics to take up the whole screen on it.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's about as dumb as when the Americans wanted to have that blue streak to follow the puck because black on white wasn't enough of
Oh
a
yeah,
contrast in hockey. Motherfucker.
yeah. That is crazy. I mean, the whole thing with the yeah. I remember when they did that blue puck
But
thing.
no, I've never understood why you need this big honking arrow, and it's not even a little thing. It's this big
No.
thing that takes up like 50% of the screen.
I will.
Pointing which way the damn ball's going.
Yes. Well, here his missus is saying, yeah, because she worked in the industry and they want to use whatever bells and whistles they have. So yeah.
But it's just
Yeah,
because when you watch a Canadian football game,
uh-huh.
they don't put the arrow up. So
No, I know. I watched one.
It's
I
not
watched
on
one.
there.
I watched Hamilton Tiger Cats, and I can't remember.
The Tiger Rats. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were playing somebody, and I don't remember who they were playing the other night, but it was nice to watch. It was just plain football. It was.
Let me see.
Really
I can tell you. Hamilton Tiger Rats.
And
Yes,
Wade
I call them the Tiger Rats.
Yeah, and Wade wants to send the Raiders to Canada. Oh, that's awesome.
Who the hell did the Tiger Rats play the other night?
I think there's somebody in green uniforms.
They played the Boomers by the looks of it.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. Let me just check.
I don't think it was Saskatchewan, but
it wasn't the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. It was the. No, it was the Alouettes. It was Montreal,
yes.
Quebec.
Yes. Oh God, yeah. How could I forget?
Montreal beat them.
Yeah.
What a joke. Okay. Anyway, moving on. What a fucking joke. Well, okay. The Alouettes for a long time were a really good team, but we always said the only reason they were any damn good is because of their quarterback. They had a really good quarterback. They basically built the team around the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarterback retired. The second their quarterback retired, for the next 3 to 4 years, they were at the bottom of the East.
Yep.
Just by removing the quarterback.
That's bad when you one player you get in the tank that bad. Yeah, I think that was. I think you were talking about how they move around and stuff like that, but the CFL's also been has sent players back to the NFL and even coaches. Because I think a couple years ago there was a guy that went to coach for the Bears.
My personal favorite. I can't remember what his name is, and maybe you'll be able to help me. But speaking of Montreal Alouettes, so they were having this quarterback issue. And then a quarterback in the NFL got basically unceremoniously booted out of the NFL for very nefarious reasons. So the CFL thought it would be a brilliant idea to bring this dumbass up.
Todd Marinovich.
He played for Montreal.
Okay, he was
and he sucked.
he was with the Raiders, right? Is that the guy that came from the Raiders? I think I know the player you're talking
uh,
about. Todd Marinovich, was that the one?
I'm not 100%
Okay, but
sure
yeah,
because I don't like Montreal, but
yeah,
yeah. So they get this American quarterback who's supposed to be really good, but he's got a bad reputation and he's done some
yeah.
shady shit. So
Oh,
much so that the NFL gave him the boot,
no,
right? so
there was somebody before since then. I know what you're saying. Yeah, and I can't.
and so
I'm
he
drawing a
comes up
blank on the
here
name.
and he's just fucking useless.
Yeah,
He's getting sacked every 5 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah,
You wonder if the
supposed to be
offensive
the
line sat him
savior
up.
of the Alouettes.
We
Yeah.
sort of wonder if you wonder if the offensive line kind of did the longest yard on him and just kind of let him go tee off on him. So,
Let me see
yes,
here.
Marinovich had some issues, but I think I'm drawing the blank on it. I know I can visualize who it is, but I remember that. But there was talk at one point with Tebow going to the Canadian Football League, and I would have loved to see him try it, but he never did. But you have great cases. The coach that came to the Chicago Bears, you had Warren Moon, who's like one of the biggest examples of a quarterback that went north of the border, came back to the NFL and played forever, had a huge career.
Does Manziel ring a bell?
Johnny Manziel, Texas A&M.
Johnny
Yes.
Manziel. Yeah, there we go. There's the dumbass. So
Yep.
he played for Montreal.
Yep. He was that way in college, A&M. But hey, yeah, Doug Flutie was another one that went north, had success, came back, and had some.
The other one too, Dickinson.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's Dickinson. So
Mm-hmm.
you know who Dickinson is then?
You're talking about the running back,
Quarterback.
That I don't know. Maybe that predates. How far back was that though?
Oh, he would have been playing in the 90s, I would imagine.
I might not have made the connection back then, but yeah, add that into it. You have several different cases where players have gone up there, resurrected their league, and I think sometimes maybe the different in play with the wider fields and stuff, made a difference, to their development. But yeah, it's interesting. I tell you what, Canadian football is not boring. I like it. I do like it.
So Dave Dickinson was a quarterback. He played in the CFL and the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He's now the head coach for the Calgary Stampeders. That's why I asked.
I just didn't remember the name though down here though.
Yeah, and then like Flutie, you said, yeah, like he's
mm-hmm.
And then Huffnagel, he was the coach before that. Now he's the president, general manager. Yeah. So yeah, you get a lot but a lot of times the NFL players will come up here. It's not so much going down there unless they're young.
Right.
So they'll play a couple of years in CFL and move down to the NFL.
Right.
Because they'll get eyeballs because you'll lose your star running back to the NFL because they backed a truckload of money to his house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're paying you 1.5. Oh, we'll pay you 3.7.
Yep.
Like fuck off.
Money's a big thing. Money talks.
Plus, we'll give you like a brand new Mercedes and a house for a signing bonus. Like fuck off.
Absolutely, I know. Yeah. It's like, hey, you can't stand up to that kind of influence. No, not at all.
Yeah.
So. Well, let me ask you another question, and we've seen some of it right now with some of the memories, and thank you for sharing those of your son. But what are there any specific games or special plays or memories that you have of games that you watched over the years? Oh yeah,
like my favorite game was Calgary Stampeders versus Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the Grey Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And that year Calgary hadn't been doing very good. Calgary was they made it into the playoffs on a limp and a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part about that whole year, because again, I told you about the brother rivalry, right?
Mm-hmm.
All my
Right.
friends are the same way. Well, going into the last week of the season, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Calgary has to win their last game to make the playoffs. Okay.
Okay.
So their last game is against Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Winnipeg to make the playoffs. Then they
Mm-hmm.
beat Winnipeg to win the Grey Cup. Because that was
Oh,
one of the years that the Winnipeg was in the East. Um,
yeah.
so that year I made about $200 that night because I bet all my friends $20 that Calgary was going to win. And then the next day I
Mm-hmm.
went and collected.
Yeah, they didn't get shy on you though, did they? Didn't try to like lock the door or pretend you weren't there, did they?
I phoned up my brother's best friend who's now not with us. She was a
Mm.
diehard season ticket bomber holding fan, and she was all up in my grill for that week. Oh, the Bombers, because they had a better record than
Yeah.
Calgary. They were doing way better than Calgary. And in the playoff game before the Grey Cup, their quarterback got taken out with a broken arm.
Oh man.
So she had been razzing me. Oh, Calgary doesn't stand a chance. Calgary doesn't stand a chance. Bombers are going to win. Blah, blah, blah. So when the Bombers won, I phoned her phone and left the voicemail. Went, we are the champions. You are the losers. Because I'm an asshole.
Yeah, the nice asshole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's hilarious.
So, but that was a really good game for me because, well, I made a lot of money. Um,
Yep.
the other couple of times Calgary's won the Grey Cup has always been cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that Calgary beats Winnipeg is a good day. Uh,
Yep. I'm sure that
lately
is.
they haven't, like, they've lost all 3 games this year against Winnipeg, and that pisses me off. So Dickinson better get his head out of his ass and start. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's also because we've got Mitchell as quarterback, and Mitchell is one of those quarterbacks where he's either playing or he's not.
Mm.
Not necessarily meaning he's on the field or not.
Mm-hmm.
He's either playing or he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he'll go out there and he'll play better than most NFL quarterbacks on the field. And then
Right.
sometimes we'll go out there and go, who gave you the quarterback position? Because you can't throw worth a shit.
Yeah.
It's just one of those where sometimes he's on and sometimes he's not.
Yep. That's I
Or he
yeah.
gets injured and then you
Yeah.
get pissed off.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is a lot of like the senior members of the team have retired over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's filling with new people and they've been making trades and moving people around. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's just trying to find the right mix again.
Yeah, that happens a lot of times. A lot of quarterbacks, it'll come down to whether so it's frustrating. You know, they got talent, but they end up spending more time in the injury tent or on the
Yeah.
training
And the
table.
other thing too, I
Yeah.
think the biggest change was Huffnagel was the coach for
Mm-hmm.
years. And then Huffnagel went up into the office and Dickinson, his assistant, took over. They
Mm-hmm.
haven't been quite the same since Dickinson took over.
Yeah.
Like in a time where the CFL leagues were struggling for quarterbacks, Calgary had 4. Right? Every other
Yeah.
team was
Wow.
desperately looking for a fucking quarterback, and Calgary had 4 on the roster.
Hey, you know, you get a ring and you get another added bonus.
You know, like
Yeah, why not?
two majors and 2 that were warming a bench. That was their job. They warmed a fucking bench because if somebody got hurt, they were going in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, so they had the one quarterback that they knew, Burris. They were trading him off because he was just not up to snuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they traded him, and they kept Bovai. Bovai led them to the Grey Cup, and then Huffnagel retired on top, and he went up further up in the office, and then Dickinson took over, and then it's been kind of a hit and miss, depending on, you just haven't seen that same Calgary team hit the field yet.
Right.
But they're also missing their major running back, which is Cornish, because he retired. And
Okay.
Cornish, he was like one of these fucking running backs. He wasn't a thin running back. He was a big boy. So you'd give him the ball on a running play, and he'd drop his shoulder, run over 5 guys, and then get taken
Jeez. Yep.
down.
Yeah.
And he
Bowling
could
ball.
run for a big guy, which is scary.
Yeah. That's what I'm telling you about that tight end for Georgia. I mean, you used to tight ends being slow and lumbering. This guy caught a 75-yard pass last week and just outrun the whole defense.
Yeah.
And that running play this time, I mean, he looked like a friggin' running back.
Yeah.
I mean, tight ends are supposed to be slow lumbering guys, but nowadays they're
and that's going all right across the, like, even Jacob has said. He's like, yeah, Dad, the beef is being slowly whittled out because it's just not the way we play anymore. They kind of got rid of the goon squad, which is half of your big guys. And they're with concussions and everything else, they're really careful on the hits, except for my son. I was so happy I was not at the game on Friday because I probably would have hit somebody. My son was running the ball and he ran it out of bounds, and they hit him after he crossed the line.
Right.
Not only did they hit him, it was a head hit. Gave him
Right.
a damn concussion. Oh, I was pissed. If I'd been there, I probably would have killed somebody.
Did they at least throw a flag on it?
Yeah, but the refs were really leaning towards the other team because it was their homecoming game.
Oh, God.
So they threw up the flag for Jacob, and then they came up with some other bullshit flag to cancel it out.
That's the one thing you ask for officials is just be consistent and be fair. Be fair to both sides.
Like in the junior leagues and in the high school leagues, I've noticed those refs are anything but. Like, sometimes you just look and go, did you need a house payment or something? Like, what the fuck? Right? Are you blinder than a bat? Did they have to eye test you before you hit the field? Like, fuck me. But I mean, you're not, they can't see everything, but sometimes it's like, that was right in front of your face. How did you miss that? I'm just asking for a friend.
I've in the last few years, I actually didn't. This last year, it's kind of upsetting it didn't happen, but I officiated youth basketball.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I like really getting into the calls and but it was about being fair, and if people didn't like it, I stood by it. But the thing was, try to be fair. And if there was a time or something that I missed a call, because there were a couple times, being as short as I am, being a dad man, the big guys get in front of you, you miss, you get screened off, and things happen.
Yeah.
And there was one time that I know that I blew the whistle, and the kid looked at me like, what? And I'm like, I had to finish the call, but I'm like, look, I know. The one time I did change it and called it an inadvertent whistle, but there was another time I knew the call was wrong, but I really couldn't change it at that point.
Yeah.
And that stuff happens, but you don't want that happening when the kids are getting hit and hurt, especially at that level, concussion, late hits, those type of things, because those things, they especially if you're going to try to do things to protect the players and stuff, you need to be consistent, and teams need to know they're not going to get away with cheap shots and stuff like that.
Oh, apparently it was one-sided, and they were just able to go rough shot, and it was just ridiculous. Yeah. But it's an East Kildonan team, so it's kind of expected. Like the one time that I actually almost ended up in a fight, like a physical fight, at one of my son's games. He was playing against Transcona because he was in the private leagues at that time, the junior private leagues. So he's 14, 15 at the time, something like that. And the refs were blocked from the team, so they didn't see the hit. And it was a fair hit. It wasn't, it just bad place, bad time, head to shoulder. Oh, darn. right?
Right.
But the kid got up and then fell to the ground, but nobody saw the kid fall. So I just got up and went, head hit, get him off the field, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I got the coach's attention. Of course, he gets him off the field. And all the Transcona fans started chanting for head hits for the next 3 plays.
Oh, geez. That's crazy.
And 3 of the loudest were right behind me. And I just wanted, every time they chanted, I just wanted to get up and just nail them. I was like, no, no, no.
Uh,
I can't afford the bail money. No, I
no,
can't
no,
afford the bail money. No, I can't afford the bail
no.
money.
Yeah,
Um,
the cost takes over the
Well,
emotion of
and to
hitting.
me, it's like, what kind of a moron do you have to be that you're gonna chant for a head hit
Yeah,
when kids are playing?
yeah,
Like, what kind of a dumbass do you have to be that you're gonna call for a head hit
yeah,
on teenagers?
yeah.
What kind of a dumbass do you have to be? And it just, yeah.
Exactly. Well, let me real quick say hello to Dave. Hey, Dave, glad you got by here. And to Thomas, the Guilt Man. Hey, thanks for coming by tonight, guys. We're just talking some football. This evening, we're having a real treat from a great Canadian, Rambling Canuck, and talking about Canadian football compared to American football. So you're late, if you're late or watching later, go back, watch the entire stream because we've been through some really interesting things and comparisons between the CFL and
If your guys is short field, I think you should guys go down to one down football.
yeah, you
Because
would think we
I don't
would
think
the
you
shorter
need
field
4
have fewer
downs to get
downs.
that short field. Because and it's so funny because there was one time my son was on the field and he held the American flag for when the Oakland Raiders and somebody
Mm-hmm.
else came up here. And they played it at the Bombers Stadium.
Okay.
And it was so funny because they shortened the field and
Wow.
remade the goal line. Your goal line wasn't even in our end zone. It was so pathetic. Our field is so much longer than your guys's. It's ridiculous. Like I think you just made the end zone, right?
Wow.
It was so
That's a
stupid.
hoot. Let me share something real here with the Guilt Man, Thomas. It says he gets to meet a great football player in a few weeks, Doug Flutie. We had
Oh
just talked
yeah.
about Doug Flutie, who had played, left Boston College, went to the CFL, and then came back to the NFL to finish his career. And
Yep.
yes, I remember that Hail Mary against the University of Miami, the Miami Hurricanes. I remember that. I want to say it was 83, 84, but I don't know the year. But it was the day after Thanksgiving. My dad was in his chair. I'm laying on the floor. We're watching the end of that daggum game, and the way he threw that dang ball up through, and it came right down into the receiver's arms. Gerald Phelan, I believe. I think it was Flutie to Phelan. But yeah, that was such a famous play forever with the Hail Mary on that. And yes, it's yep, touchdown pass, and yep, definitely a Boston guy. But yeah, I mean, and Flutie had a great career at Boston College. He did. I mean, he did a lot more than just the one Hail Mary. But he'll always be famous for that. So,
Yeah.
well, let me ask you one more question, and as we move on here is okay. We know you love the Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah.
Okay. And we know you love your son's football team. So those are obvious reasons why you pull for certain teams. Are there any other football teams that you really like? Or if you go to the side, and you might answer this with the Calgary question, what is it about a team that draws your interest if you want to cheer or follow a team?
Well, for me, like I said, I mean, Calgary, I mean, I was young when I picked the team. So for me, my family name on my mother's side is McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Calgary for the longest time, I think they still play there, but I think they're getting a new stadium, so they're going to change the name of it because, of course, they will. But the name of the Calgary Stampeders or stadium for years was McMahon Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's the family name, and okay, cool. And then, secondly, my favorite colors are red and black. Well, one of their jerseys, their alternates is red and black. So I was kind of a no-brainer there. And then of course it was the main rival, one of the rivals of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So the brother rivalry. So I could stick
Mm-hmm.
it to my brother every once in a while. I mean, the main rival for Winnipeg is Saskatchewan.
Mm.
So yeah, the main rival is Saskatchewan, but you
Okay.
know, you
All
can't
right.
always get what they want.
Nope. No, they can't. Well, that has been a fun discussion, Canuck. I appreciate it, and hearing about all that and the differences between the two. It is nice hearing about the high school, college, or semi-pro levels. That's really interesting to hear from the perspective of how football operates north of the border. And I do agree. I like having the longer field. I like seeing that C for that center line, and I love that 1 point. Giving up the 1 point. I mean, those are really neat rule changes that I really like. When you watch a Canadian football game. And I challenge the people that like watching American football, try a Canadian game for something different. It's definitely not soccer, and they can have some wild shootouts with those two downs on the wider field. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
it's a lot more passing than it is, like the NFL and the other with the running plays so much. And I think when I watched the other night, they didn't do, and maybe I didn't watch enough, but it seemed like that they didn't do a lot of that read option type stuff. That either they
no,
ran the ball or they threw the ball.
yeah, it's a run or a throw. Most of the time, we don't do a lot of onside kicks either.
Mm-hmm.
It's not onside kick heavy.
Yeah.
We will do it on occasion, but again,
Mm-hmm.
not that much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, football, it's the throwing game, the running game, and special teams. If your special teams suck, your team is going to blow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, we have you've got to have a punt returner who can actually return the ball. Because if you get stuck in that end zone, you're giving up a point.
Yep.
So,
And that's even if they're tackled in the zone, whether they're tackled or they fair catch it, it's a point.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
no, they catch it in the end zone and have to run it out.
That's right, because you can't fair catch it.
That's right. So
Hey.
if they catch in the end zone, they've got to run it out. So you'll have times where he gets stopped on the 5-yard line. That's where they start.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
And
fuck.
it's a longer field. It's a longer field.
And
Yes.
it's a longer field to boot, and you've got 3 downs to play
Yes.
with. So you got 2 and
Absolutely.
out, or so first downs is a big thing in the CFL.
Yeah.
Because you've only got 2 shots at it, and then you're either kicking it away or going for the field goal.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for all that information. So we'll go ahead and if you think of anything else, throw it up as we go along. But we'll go ahead and move into our next section as we'll go into previewing next week's action. And when we do that, we'll start with the top 25, which Kanak, I don't know how familiar you are with the college rankings, but this basically media writers end up voting for how they view it's all personal opinion. And at the end of the year, when they decide which teams get to go to the playoffs, it's a combination of these polls with computer whatever's they do. I don't even know anymore.
So it's not even how good the teams play if they get to go to the playoffs.
Well, no, because you could have a team that's hot at 11-1, but if they don't have the right ranking strength of schedule, they could actually be fifth in the ratings.
Fuck.
Well, there is. Yeah. Well,
what kind of a Jew job was that?
My friends, that is exactly why I wanted.
What kind of a screw job is that? Okay, so we're 12-0, but we're not making the playoffs this year, folks. Fuck, that didn't pay off enough, motherfuckers.
Well, I will tell you, there is a thing called the Power 5 conferences, which are the big boys, like that have Florida, USC, the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and the Southeastern Conference. Pretty much the way it's been working, the 4 teams that make the playoffs every year are from those 4 conferences. In many cases, 2 from the SEC, 1 from the Big 10, and it switches between Big 12, Big 12 or ACC. The Pac-12 gets left out a lot. But what has happened is there's been so much complaining from the other lower leagues conferences that, like last year, Cincinnati was undefeated. There was some thought they would not have played enough strong competitions to get the computer rankings to get them in that fourth spot. Well, they did last year, so they actually got to play Alabama and they got routed in the game. So that is a concern, and that is something. You can have undefeated teams that beat everybody they play, but because they haven't played enough good competition, get left out. Well, the talk is that the move is trending towards expanding the playoffs in college to a 12-team playoff.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
so they're
You have
going
more
to do that.
teams. If you have
But
more teams playing, you have more teams in the playoffs.
one of the problems that has hampered this whole thing and is complicated is historically the way college football was worked up until probably, was it the 90s or maybe 2000s, what drove the national champion were just the AP poll or the coaches poll. At the
Yeah.
end of the year, that was your national champions. Most years, somebody would be undefeated or good enough to win their bowl game, but they may not have played the number 2 team in the bowl game, but they got the votes for it, to be number 1. One year, 1990, Georgia Tech and Colorado were split national champions because one poll vote went one way, the other poll went the other way. But what is complicated is they have been resistant to a true playoff format, mostly because what is the structure of college football over so many years has been the bowl games. I'm not sure how familiar with that. You got like the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Poulon Weed Eater Bowl, or the Shreveport Bowl, the Music City Bowl. These are like basically they became glorified exhibitions. But 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it was kind of the accepted thing. People didn't care. They were okay with voting somebody at the end as national champions. And these bowl games were great revenue generators for the local economies, for charities, and stuff like that. And since there's been such a public push to have a national championship or a playoff like an NFL type playoff, the concern has been how do we keep the bowl game structure alive? And what they do is they put the 2 matchups in 2 bowls, 2 of the big bowls, and they rotate it between years. And that is complicated because people want to keep these other bowls, but we have a bowl game locally here. Well, every time I go to look for a ticket, about 2 teams I usually don't care about. I would go watch anybody play football. I'd like football. But when the ticket's $40 to $50, I don't want to spend that money to watch teams I don't care about. Mm-hmm. Especially when I got to pay 2 or 3 tickets, to have the wife or the kid go. $15, $20, yeah, fine. But at 40 or 50, it's like, no. To watch a game that's not going to matter in the end. And it's even if, let's say, Florida's here, I think twice about it.
Like we have something like that up in the CFL. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because the leagues are uneven. Okay. Mm-hmm. So remember how I said those were the years that the Winnipeg was in the East? Mm-hmm. Okay. So as somebody pointed out, when the Ottawa Rough Riders were canceled as a football team, mm-hmm. Winnipeg got shifted over to the East because the East standard has 4 teams in it. Okay. The West has 5. So if with Ottawa gone, that left the East with 3. So they moved Winnipeg over. So there's at least 4 in the East. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
But now with Ottawa back, there's 4 in the East and there's 5 in the West. But if you're an Eastern team, you nail bite. Mm-hmm. Because the way the playoffs work is the top 3 teams from each side go head to head, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So in the East, your 2 bottom teams are out. In the West, your bottom team is out. Okay. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem.
Okay.
If, let's say, Winnipeg, BC, Calgary make it for the West, okay? Mm-hmm. And then you have Toronto, Montreal, and we'll say Hamilton, okay? Mm-hmm. But Hamilton is, we'll say, 12-2, right?
Okay.
But Saskatchewan is 13-1. Saskatchewan gets the crossover and kicks Hamilton out of the playoffs.
Wow.
And then it becomes Saskatchewan playing for the East.
Oh, geez. That's crazy. Wow. That's an interesting scenario. Oh, my
So the
gosh.
Eastern team, the bottom Eastern team, has to do better
Right.
than the Western team, or
Okay.
they risk getting booted in the crossover.
Mm-hmm.
So the fourth worst West team has to do worse than the bottom
God.
East, or the Eastern team gets the boot and the Western team crosses over and plays on the Eastern side,
Oh, my gosh. I'm just
which
getting a headache.
doesn't really work very well because traditionally, okay, your
Mm-hmm.
stronger teams are in the West.
Right.
So Calgary, BC, Saskatchewan, Edmonton.
Yep.
Edmonton has sucked donkey dick for the last little while, but for the most part, your major teams are BC, Calgary, Saskatchewan. So if all of a sudden you have a Saskatchewan
Mm-hmm.
moving over to the East, well, they have like boot fucked the Eastern Division all season long,
Wow. Yeah.
and now they're coming into their playoffs.
I agree with the missus on this one. That just trying to think about that gets my head hurting. So, but that
Yeah.
is crazy.
So the East gets fucked every
Yeah.
year.
Well, there's always disagreement with college football and all, especially when it comes to polls and things like that. So it's crazy. A lot of opinion and things don't always work out. Usually at the end, when the teams get left out from other conferences, there we have all those discussions about who played what and all that. So. And yeah, this week with Florida losing, they left the top 25. So the SEC's down.
And I am very, very happy to hear that you no longer have a Washington football team.
Yeah,
They
they won't
actually
have a
gave them a
Commanders.
name finally.
Yeah, Commanders.
Um,
Although the uniforms look horrible, that ugly whatever
but don't feel bad.
mustard and
Don't
yeah.
feel bad because Canada didn't want to feel left out,
Oh yeah.
so we did the same fucking thing to Edmonton.
Oh, they changed from the
The
Eskimos. They used
Eskimos,
those. Yeah,
because that was
right. So
problematic.
what are they called now?
The Elks.
Well, at least it still starts with an E. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But no, they went from
yeah.
the Eskimos to the Elks.
Okay.
But for a while, they were the Edmonton football team
Yeah.
because we couldn't be left out.
Well, that's okay. Well, things change, and it's interesting. But yeah, it's just Washington's problem is the god awful ugly colors they got. Gee, Manetti's. Edmonton's are not so great either with that green, and it's not even
Green
like a
and
pack.
gold, yeah.
It's a weird looking green and gold. It just it's crazy.
Well,
But
what I used to do to piss my brother off,
uh-huh.
or any other Bomber fans, is the Bombers' colors are blue and gold, right?
Right. Yeah.
So my old joke was, well, the old blue and gold, they better start winning or they'll be the blue and sold before you know it. Um,
That's too funny. Oh well.
Although it is hilarious when the Ottawa Red Blacks
Mhm.
face against Calgary and Calgary's in red and black.
Oh geez, yeah. I hate it when teams.
Interesting.
I know it does. I hate it when
Usually, luckily, that doesn't happen very often because Calgary's home jerseys are white and red
right,
or white and black. So black
right.
helmet, white jerseys. But yeah, once in a while you get that same color and it's like,
Uh,
which is who?
yeah, yeah, I know.
Look at the emblems. Look at the emblems.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, yeah, that happens a lot of times when these schools and they have the same color. It just and then when they both want to wear color, nobody wants to wear white. It gets very frustrating trying to tell the differences. So, well, with the poll, Florida left losing to Tennessee, so there's only 7 left in the top 25 on the AP. We got four SEC teams in the top 10. We move over to the coaches poll. still 4 in the top 10, but Ole Miss is a little higher at 11, with A&M and Arkansas closer down to the bottom of the top 20. Still Georgia and Alabama. Everybody's chasing them these days. So it's interesting. So then we move to this week's games this week. So if you something comes up of interest, feel free to shout it out and stop me. But we'll go ahead and look at the games this week. The first game we're going to look at is number 2 Alabama at number 20 Arkansas. One thing that's frustrating with college football though, many times you can't get a damn agreement on how many games have been played because somebody somewhere insists that they didn't win or lose a game or they refuse to acknowledge one. I know, like Florida, Georgia, there's a disagreement about the overall series record, and it's just very frustrating because somebody 100 years ago said we don't recognize that. But depending on who you listen to, Bama leads the all-time series against Arkansas 23-7, 23-7, or 22-8. But Alabama's won the last 15 meetings in the series.
Well, I haven't looked at my picks yet, so this will be news to me which one I picked.
Okay, well, we'll see. And I will hold off till then because I want to hear your methodology, how the picks went. So, but we'll wait.
That's
till
easy.
Picks.
I talk to somebody who follows college football every week. So
we'll talk about that again when we get to that point. But yeah, the first time that the two schools met was in the 1962 Sugar Bowl. Alabama won 10-3, where they went 11-0 and became national champions. It was the first of 6 national championships for Alabama under the coach Paul Bear Bryant. The last time Arkansas has won was back in 2006. They won 24-33. So far this year, Alabama's 4-0 with wins over Utah State, Texas, where they escaped with a 1-point win on the road, Louisiana Monroe, and Vanderbilt. Arkansas is 3-1 with wins over Cincinnati, South Carolina, and Missouri State, with a loss last week in the neutral site in Dallas against Texas A&M, 23-21. Just some basic stats, and here's the series results between the two teams. I'll talk more about how I pick when we get to the picks, but really, it's a key matchup to determine the control of the West. I think it's a little dimmer for Arkansas now since they lost against Texas A&M, because this could have been a chance for them to beat A&M and Alabama if they could have won both of them towards taking the Western Division crown, but they didn't last week. So here's where we sit. You got any Alabama comments, or are you good?
Well, if I was making the pick, because you got to remember, I just kind of outsourced my answers here. Because
I remember.
I never go into anything without knowing something, and I kind of went into this without knowing anything. So I talked to somebody who I went, here's the picks, pick one. So for me, I would probably just say Alabama, because
Yeah. Okay.
Alabama.
Yeah. All right. I'll be curious to see how, that's kind of cool. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe you should tell me what you think, and we'll compare it to your pick later. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
cool. Let me say hi to Whoopa Trooper real quick. Hey, Whoopa. Thanks for swinging by. Yes. We've got Whoopa engaged for a future show. So the next game we're going to talk about is LSU at Auburn. This has become a very heated rivalry until before 1992 and the addition of 2 new teams to the conference. They did not meet every year. So when they broke into the Eastern lineup, being in the Western Division, they've played every year and developed a very heated rivalry. LSU leads the overall series 31-20, 31-24-1 tie. By the way, one thing I did not ask, can you have ties in Canadian football?
Yes.
Okay. All right. In college football now, since the mid-90s, when they had that overtime rule, there's no more ties. So, but you can still have ties at the NFL until it's the playoffs. So
yeah, that's basically the same thing in the CFL.
Yeah. The first meeting was in 1901. Auburn won 28-0. The largest victory in the series was Auburn 48-11. back in 2020. The longest winning streak was LSU was winning 6 games way back in 1926 to 1937. The current winning streak is Auburn for 2 games in a row. LSU has won 3 games this year, 1 loss, with wins over Southern University, Mississippi State, and New Mexico. Held them to those big 2 first downs there. But they lost to FSU on a block PAT with no time remaining, losing 24-23. Auburn is also 3-1 with home wins over Mercer, San Jose State, and Missouri. But they lost at home to Penn State 41-12. So I really don't. This is really not. This game is lost as less to really. What's that?
This is easy.
Oh yeah.
Especially for me, it's easy.
Okay. Auburn. What about? Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
1, it's Mrs. Canucks team, and 2, LSU is so freaking lazy they can't even come up with a name. They just put 3 letters together. Like, these get creative, for fuck's sake.
Well, they're technically Louisiana State, but
that's not what it LSU says. It says LSU. I can throw 3 freaking letters together too.
I know. You go to ESPN, it's LSU. You look at their helmets, it's LSU. They don't spell out Louisiana State on their helmets, do they? No, they don't. But this has really been a historically kind of a cool rivalry. They've had some heated games and some really crazy endings. So
looks like lazy sumbitch university. So it's got to be Auburn.
A little Jackie Gleason reference right in there. Hey, that's awesome. Well, we'll move on to Kentucky and Ole Miss. Kentucky's number 7. Ole Miss is number 14 in the country with the AP poll.
So, Ole Miss leads. Do they have a wager that if Kentucky loses to Mississippi or Mississippi loses to Kentucky, they have to sleep with each other's cousins? Just curious.
That would be if it's Kentucky, Tennessee. In my opinion.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Wade. I had
to. Just kidding.
Like to see. What was said? Auburn just picked a random color. It's not any better. So yeah, it's an orange and blue. So. Oh man, hey, but Ole Miss leads the series 28-14-1. But Ole Miss says it's 28-13-1. Another one of those disagreements. Ole Miss has won the last 2 games in 9 of 13 games dating back to 1987. It's an East versus West matchup where they don't play every year necessarily. Because one thing, Robert, what happens is in the SEC, like Florida plays LSU everywhere. Even though Florida's in the East, LSU's in the West. That's determined to be like Florida's important cross-divisional opponent. So they play LSU every year. Like Tennessee plays Alabama every year. So, yeah. But then they rotate to get the number of conference games that they have. Then they add in a rotation of teams from over the years. So that's kind of how that works. That's why you'll see 9 of 13, but it took since 1987. It's because they don't play every year. Kentucky's largest margin of victory is 47-0 in 1949. Their largest winning streak in the series is 2 games back in 1949 and 50. Ole Miss largest margin of victory was 37-7 in 1956. The longest winning streak was 8 games from 1956 to 1963. Ole Miss is 4-0 this year with wins over Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tulsa. Not really a great lineup, especially that close game against Tulsa at home. But Kentucky is 4-0 also with wins over Miami of Ohio, on the road at Florida, home at Youngstown State in Northern Illinois. So very pedestrian games, although Kentucky did beat Florida. They struggled. They didn't look as good on offense, but, hey, a win's a win. So I think you already said enough about this game.
Yeah, I think it'll be Mississippi because Kentucky will Kentucky it up.
Okay.
Next.
Okay, just remember which ones you pick, so when we get to your picks, we can see how it goes.
Yeah, when I get to my actual picks, I'll be able to find out how fucking far off I was. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the last game we're really going to take a look at is Texas A&M at Mississippi State. Mississippi State leads the series 8-7. A&M largest margin of victory is 41-7 back in 1912. The largest winning streak for A&M was 2 games back in the 2012-13 seasons. Mississippi State largest margin of victory was 35-14 back in 2017 with the longest winning streak of 3 games from 2016 to 2018.
Okay, but I have
Um,
a question. How do they get
yeah,
away with being the same colors?
they're technically it comes. There's a coding. Mrs. could tell you exactly the difference. Those are official school colors that we've gotten from the website. There's a color code for them. They're not the same color, but
I
they
call
do.
BS on that.
The missus would have to prove it to you because there's a skew color, a skew number, or something where it defines the
If
color.
I'm
Yes,
looking downfield from about 100 feet, I'm not going to be able to tell the skew number. I'm going to tell you they're the same
I
team
agree.
playing
I want to
each
see them
other.
both wear colored jerseys. I want to see them both wear colored jerseys and see how that goes. It's one thing when somebody's wearing an
Man,
orange jersey and a blue jersey,
talk
but
about
yeah.
confusing your call players. Jesus Murphy.
Oh well, we'll see. And Alabama's through them or Arkansas. Arkansas is another one that's close to those colors too. So, but that's hilarious. With the last 10 games, they've split 5-5. Mississippi State is 3-1 this year with wins over Memphis, Arizona, and Bowling Green, while losing last week on the road at LSU. And A&M is 3-1 also with very mediocre wins over Sam Houston State. They did win at home against a ranked Miami team who's fallen on hard times, 17-9, and they did win against Arkansas, even though the offense struggled to put up points. But then they're settled with the home loss to Appalachian State, which no, at least it's not a conference loss. But here, they're not actually the same color. One is slightly darker. You've really got to look at it to see. But I'm
Not
like
from
you.
100 feet, they're not.
I agree. I want to see them both wear the colored jersey, or like as Whoopa said, put them both in white with the same dark color. That'd be fun to see how many interceptions get thrown in a game like that. So, who would you take in this game if you had to pick between the two of them?
I don't know. Texas, I guess.
Texas. Okay, all right. We'll compare that to your pick then. The
Probably will
last
be
three
different.
games. The last 3 games are what we call Georgia Mississippi is a conference game, but
Yeah,
Missouri.
but you still haven't explained to me how the heck we get this incest game, Southern Carolina versus Southern Carolina. That's just rigging
I'm
the.
going to get to
That's
that.
just rigging the field there.
I'll get there. I know you
That's
messaged
like
me
the
about that one.
Yankees and the Mets.
I'll get to that one next in a
How
second.
many
But
damn teams does one city need?
oh,
Just saying.
I know it's crazy. But before we get to that one, we got Georgia, Missouri. We're not going to spend any time on that because Georgia should be able to. I mean, Georgia ranked number one. And Missouri is very, very average. So then we'll lead to a term that we call the Paycheck Games, Canuck, which is basically South Carolina State and Eastern Washington are going on the road to play South Carolina and Florida, respectively. And basically, they get $1 million or so. They go to get sacrificed, but it's a paycheck game for the university. South Carolina State is a small school, a historically black college, so they're very low rated. They're like what we call 1AA. They're like a different level step down, playing against a bowl division school and an SEC team, South Carolina. So this is one of those that they're in the same state, but it's not like Florida and Florida State where they're big schools. South Carolina State is a small school. So, and then Eastern Washington at Florida. I don't even think I could watch that game as a Gator fan. It's like, why the hell am I going to watch that? I mean, it's just, but
Well,
they
you
come for a
watch it
paycheck.
so that when Eastern Washington wins, you throw something at the screen.
Okay. Which reminds me, Georgia, Missouri, who would you take?
Georgia.
Okay. South Carolina State, and as you said, that family relation game there.
Yeah, the
South Carolina
family
State,
relation
South Carolina.
game, yeah.
Yeah. How would you say there?
Probably Carolina. Well,
Okay.
without the ST at the end.
Okay, gotcha. And then Eastern Washington and Florida.
Well, probably Florida, but I mean, just for kicks, I'd go Washington just for a kick.
Okay. Well,
If you're
sometimes
betting, that's the team you bet on, right?
I don't know. I know nothing about gambling. That's why
That's
I
the
don't even.
high and over because if
Yeah.
they're scheduled to lose, well, if
Yeah.
they pull out a fluke and win, then you get the most
Well,
payoff.
Well, I will tell you though. I tell you what. And see, that's why I don't do betting and stuff like that because I don't know how to read those lines and all that other stuff. This is what we do
Well, my
straight up
brother
picks.
used to do it, so I know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know.
I have
And
no.
he'd bet on the long shot. That's what you call betting on the
Yeah,
long shot. You never win, but when you
yeah.
do, you win big.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and that's the thing is Florida struggled a couple weeks ago at home with South Florida, a team that they should have beaten pretty easily. Took a botched field goal snap for them to seal the win, but you never know. Who knows what will happen? Uh, Average is generous, and then South Carolina State versus South Carolina. Hot take: the team from South Carolina will win. That's a
Yeah.
nice observation. There you go. So with that, now, are you ready to see what your official picks are?
Yeah. Let's see what
All
what
right. Well, we'll
a
go to
little
the
bit
first
of
game,
ingenuity would.
Alabama and Arkansas. Oh well, let me preview it. Last week, our guest was Culture Casino. I forgot about this slide we got here. That we've tallied up the results of my picks against the guest picks, and Culture was 8-2, and I was 9-1. So I moved to 39-9, and the guests are 35-13. The one we only had one game where we disagreed last week, and it was the Florida Tennessee game, and I obviously won that with Tennessee winning. We both lost. We both had picked Arkansas over A&M. So
Ah,
basically, the previous pickers were Mrs. Dadman walking, Squeak a Mouse, who used cheese as a methodology to pick winners, and Mrs. had used a very detailed point system based on bands, uniforms, and other stuff.
mm,
Mark D with a C, the engineer himself, was so clinical. He went 12-0. So he
nice.
outdid me, and he's set the picking standard around here. So, I know he'll love having another shout out tonight about that. But, so in my culture's picks, we're 39-9 and 35-13. All right. And I encourage people, subscribe on the YouTube side. Follow over on Twitch and go back and watch these shows. They were really, really fun. They may be long. You can skip some of the boring football stuff, but in the sections where we talk about the picks and how they did methodologies and things, they're really interesting conversations. So go back and take a look at the previous videos. You'll really get a kick out of them. So with that, here you go. Canuck, you took Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're good with that. You got any other comments, or have you said everything?
No, I'm good with Alabama.
Okay. All righty. And I agree. I took Alabama also. So, um, next game, LSU Auburn. And you picked Auburn just a
Yeah,
minute
I
ago.
picked Auburn. I
Let's
bet you it
see.
says Auburn on there too.
Yep, you took Auburn.
Mrs. Canuck had something to do with that.
Oh yeah. By the way, how was your method? I know you said you outsourced it, but exactly describe how you outsourced that this year.
Well, it's very easy. Mary's best friend, Mark, the infinitely tired,
Mm-hmm.
watches college football and lives and dies by it. So I just had her let him know what games, and he went this one, that one, this one, that one, this one, that one, and then it got sent to you. So, you know, when I don't know, I go, it comes from running a history channel. If I don't know something, I'll go to somebody who does. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's good. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens because, like I said, last week we only had one we disagreed on, so we'll see what happens here. But I took LSU, even though they're on the road. I just don't trust the Auburn offense. LSU does seem to have a little bit of firepower on offense.
I mean, they can't
But
even get a name. I mean, jeez.
I know. Well, they're trying to get offense. That's why they get lazy on the name. So that's why they do. It's Louisiana. What do you expect? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So Kentucky at Mississippi, and you said, did you say Ole Miss on this one?
Yeah, because Kentucky would kafucky it up.
Okay, gotcha. Well, guess what? You're official Kentucky.
Yeah.
But then again, I disagreed. I took Ole Miss because I agree with you. I think in this case that even though Ole Miss struggled against Tulsa, Kentucky has been winning by bare margins against teams that they should beat by
Mm-hmm.
better margins. The Florida game that they won was a direct result of a quarterback for Florida giving them 2 touchdowns. One was a pick six, and the other was like handing him the ball where they got the ball at the Florida 6 yard line, and of course they got a touchdown. So,
Yeah.
it was like had that not happened, even though Florida struggled, they probably could have won that game. And like I said earlier, and Florida's going to have the effects of 2-2 now instead of 3-1. But Kentucky, you take Kentucky, and I select Ole Miss. So the next game, I think you took Texas A&M when we were talking, and yep, that's who your pick is. So, all right, and I agree. I don't trust Mississippi State. I don't trust the coach. He did way too much going for fourth and a foot on his own side of the 50. It's crazy stuff. But I'm not a fan of Texas A&M. I don't. The coach used to be a head coach at FSU, a rival of the Gators, and their offense has struggled all year. I mean, the thing is, could Mississippi State move the ball and score touchdowns against A&M's defense? And we move on to Georgia, Missouri. You take Georgia, and I agree because even though it's a road game, it's Georgia. They're number one, and
even I know that, and I'm Canadian.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they beat Alabama last year, didn't they?
Alabama won the SEC title game, so they won the SEC conference. But then in the rematch in the national championship game, yes, Georgia then beat Alabama to be national champions. So it's kind of odd. You got one team in the SEC that won the conference title, but then another one that did not win a conference title actually won the national title. So talk about family relations is kind of really weird thing when you look at it. So, all right, well, the last 2 games here, the Paycheck Games. You take South Carolina. I agree. I took South Carolina also, which leaves us with 1 game left. So who would you said? Who,
I went. I said it'd probably be Florida, but just for kicks, I'd go Washington if I was a betting man because I'd want the payout.
Okay, guess what? You took Eastern Washington, and like we say, we're not betting and gambling and doing stuff. No, we're just straight up picks. But hey, I understand the strategy. I mean, it makes sense from that. And honestly, I will say, I don't know, I know nothing about Eastern Washington, but if somehow they had any semblance of an offense, Samford University put up 50-something points on the Gators at home last year. Florida's been soft up the middle with stopping teams running the ball against them. If Washington could get some points and Anthony Richardson does not play like he did last week, it could. I don't expect it to, but it could get interesting. But I'm still going to take the Gators at home. It's just they should win here. They should win this game.
Oh, I can't.
So
I can't pick the Gators just on the premise that Titus O'Neil came from the Gators.
Oh, God. Oh, you're really stuck on that one, Titus O'Neil. That's a name I'll not forget now. So, hey, thanks for being here with us tonight, and especially,
No
man,
problem.
2 hours has gone so fast, and it's been fun and delightful, and I'm happy that we got to talk Canadian football, American football, how we do it wrong. Here's some similarities.
And please educate your fans so that I don't have to look at this stupid arrow on the screen when I go to the bar.
I know.
Just saying, like, how dumb do you have to be that you got to be able to have this big freaking arrow pointing which way the ball's going?
Well, we're Americans. We like signage. So,
good Lord.
Well, hey, do you want to go ahead and say a little bit more about your channel or anything you got special coming up?
Well, I've got Rambling Canuck. That's basically I basically do gaming now on that channel. Karaoke, of course. It's the channel where I just kind of let loose and just do whatever the fuck I want. History with R&R is a little more serious, and I try to keep it pretty history based, and I don't try to go too far with just letting things fly. So History with R&R is the more serious channel, and then Rambling Canuck is just where I piss around and have fun and swear at video games.
There you go. It's all fun. It's all fun and games. But yeah, maybe one day we can play Axis and Allies again.
Yeah.
Still love that anytime that you're up for it. Well, I'm going to move you to the background. Just stay around for a couple minutes. I want to
Yep.
say goodbye, and I'll see you in just a moment. Hey, folks, thank you again for being here tonight. Appreciate you being here. Our next show is going to be next Friday night. Let's see what date that is. The 7th of October. We'll have another special guest that night. Most of our nights will be Thursdays at 8. There are sometimes we have to accommodate schedules. This week we had to accommodate because of weather. Thank you for coming around. Share it with others. Share it with your friends. And, hopefully you learned a lot about, football tonight, the differences between American and Canadian football. It's not always just college either. Just a good conversation. And I was fascinated with this tonight. Some good stories. And each week, it just seems like we get better and better, new stories, new things that people share. And, hopefully it's positive. And even if you're not a big football or sports aficionado, that, you're able to watch this and enjoy it and have a good time and learn some things. So, but for all the latest, follow us on Twitter. That's where we post events and streams at Dadman Walking 55. As I mentioned earlier, go back and watch the videos from the previous shows, the previous 4 weeks with Culture Casino, Mrs. Dadman Walking, Squeak a Mouse, and Mark D with a C. And just enjoy some of those. They're really, really good moments. And they'll be on twitch.tv, Dadman Walking 55, and then also the YouTube channel, Dadman Walking 55. Please, again, follow us on Twitch, subscribe, and like the videos over on YouTube. And let's get to 100 subscribers, because my friend Mark D with a C wants me to get to 100 because it's something to do with the long name for the YouTube channel. So let's make Mark D with a C, who was 12-0 2 weeks ago. Give him another shout out. Let's make him happy, and we'll get to 100 on YouTube. And I'll keep getting the likes, the follows on the Twitch side too. Again, thank you all for being here. We'll see you the next time, next Friday. Look towards Twitter for any announcements about that. And we thank you again for being here. I'll say again, going out, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, or whatever it is. And, have a good time, and, try to laugh and smile. And we will catch you next time. Bye.